This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. This is going to be a very unkind show. We're going back to the Maine legislature today, and we're going to attack a bill that will come before the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. I mean, really attack it. This may get ugly.
Oh, you're sure that this is not too ugly for the public, Bob?
Honest to God, we're going to beat up this bill until it bleeds from every orifice.
Oh, man.
We're going to whack it like a piñata. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is all about fun and adventure in the outdoors, and sometimes about controversial subjects, and sometimes about legislation affecting nature and wildlife. Today is a good example. Today, we're going to take a close look at LD 668, an act to market Maine's hunting and fishing opportunities. It is one of a lot of bills in the legislature this session that comes in the aftermath of last year's bear referendum. The passion behind many of these bills is the idea that somehow we don't do enough to tell people about what hunting and fishing are all about in Maine. This particular bill also continues a discussion that has been going on for years that Maine is not the destination for hunting and fishing that it once was, and could be again. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Dysarts, EBS, Doris Equipment, and Napa Auto Parts. Now then, we're going to attack this bill, see if we can find all of its flaws, expose it to the light of day. We're going to beat it up as bad as we can. Oh, and there's one more thing you should know. This is my bill. You might remember from one episode of this show in January that I agreed to sponsor a bill for George Smith. George spent 17 years as executive director of the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine. He now writes and blogs about traditional sporting as well as travel and tourism, and he still meddles in the State House. In fact, he has persuaded 8 different legislators to sponsor bills for him in this year's session. I represent House District 121, and George talked me into this one. LD 668 would require the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to establish a comprehensive marketing program and put a marketing specialist in charge of it. Then the bill requires that the department collaborate with the Maine Office of Tourism, do annual surveys, train and educate outdoor recreational professionals, including sporting camp operators, recommend new ways to package and promote hunting and fishing licenses, get aggressive about promoting opportunities to hunt and fish in Maine, and even create a database of outdoor writers and reporters who might be enticed to write good things about the state. You might guess that all this makes sense. Guess again. There will be people who hate this bill, and lots of issues will be raised against it. So before it ever gets beat up at the hearing in front of the legislature, George and I are going to beat it up right now. Welcome back, George Smith.
Always a pleasure, Bob.
Yeah, we'll change that now.
Well, there's plenty of subjects to talk about.
We're going to do an exercise today. I have a bill of yours that I'm sponsoring. This is LD something or other. I forget the number. But it's an act to market Maine's hunting and fishing opportunities.
What a great idea, huh?
Well, it is. Everybody seems to have the idea. There's so many bills in this time on marketing and education. Mm-hmm. Mike Shaw has one on that.
Yes.
So my exercise for this particular radio show is to beat this bill to crap. Mm-hmm. I want to show how a committee might actually treat a bill when it shows up, when they really go to work on it. So,
you're sure that this is not too ugly for the public, Bob?
Honest to God, we're going to beat up this bill until it bleeds from every orifice.
Oh, man.
We're going to whack it like a piñata. Yeah. Because there's a lot here to hate.
Yes. Yes, and they will.
And they will. So we're going to hate it in public right now and really work through the nuances.
All right.
Because when I present this bill to the IF&W committee, I'm going to have to defend it.
Yes.
And it's your work.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to cover my butt.
I will be right behind you clapping and cheering.
I'm going to defer all the hard questions to you.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get right into it. This bill would establish a marketing program in inland fisheries and wildlife. They used to have one.
They did have one. They had a good one. They had an excellent guy. Bill Pierce ran it. He went all over the country promoting hunting and fishing, attracting new customers, because these are the customers of this department. Mm-hmm. And they had about a $150,000 budget, and they did great work. When Bill left, they abolished his job and eliminated the budget. And they've really done no marketing since. And
we kind of see the results of that a little bit. They have had people in there who have been press liaisons who do some of the coordinating for the department, but really capacity disappeared.
And over time, the hunting and fishing industry has tried to grab part of the existing tourism budget, which is about $9 million, and direct it their way. But you're competing against inns and restaurants and well-organized industries. And as I tell them, they do a lot of research to decide where to spend this $9 million, and our industries are in decline. Mm-hmm. Hunting and fishing is in decline. tourism is looking for the industries that are growing, the reasons people want to come to Maine. That's what they're advertising. So it's kind of self-perpetuating. No advertising, no marketing. We continue to go downhill. Less people hunting and fishing, and the industry's in real trouble.
Hey, if I were making the decisions, I would probably put the money where I can get the most bang for the buck, which is lobsters and lighthouses. Put it along the coast where all the money's going anyway. And
I'm telling you, I mean, it's shocking when I like to say it at some of my talks, but more people are coming to Maine birding than hunting.
Yeah. All right. Well, this bill requires IFW to develop a marketing program, and that gets to the heart of a big question that was left over from the mayor debate. It's resonating all throughout the State House. There's a lot of bills on education and marketing because a lot of us feel like somehow our story isn't getting out.
Yes, that's true. Appropriations just asked some of us for ideas. If they actually had some money for fish and wildlife, what would we put it into? And I recommended some public education. The public gets almost no information anymore about hunting, fishing, in our wildlife management areas or anything else. The website's a disaster. You can't find anything on it. A lot of information isn't there. But, yeah, and, you know, I managed a campaign that put the Fish and Wildlife Department in the Constitution and protected the revenue that it raises itself because the legislature was stealing it for other things. And 76,000 more people voted for that than any constitutional amendment in history. And I know that the public wants to support this agency and thinks they are supporting this agency, but they are not. Their public money is not going to this agency. And so the agency rises and falls on its sale of licenses and permits and registrations, and those are going down. And we need to reverse that.
Otherwise, we end up in a deep hole where we're just not making anything in our economy off the natural resources we have available.
Well, you spend a lot of time in the Northwoods, as I do, and I'm writing a book about Maine sporting camps. And the story really is we've gone from over 300 to about 36 traditional sporting camps, and half of those are in trouble.
At least half.
Yes.
At least half.
And, you know, it's kind of a dysfunctional industry. They don't work real closely together, so it's every little camp for themselves, and times are changing. People want shorter trips. I mean, the whole industry is changing, and they need help.
And it's not forthcoming because I don't see anything out there really working. I mean, there's a nice association, but you hold a meeting and only a handful show up.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. So why is it IF&W's job to be a marketer? Let's hold that thought. We got to take a break. My guest is George Smith, a longtime champion of hunting and fishing. And we're attacking a bill that will soon be in front of the Maine legislature, LD 668. George wrote it, I sponsored it, and we're in the process of publicly beating it up. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. My guest is George Smith, one of Maine's most well-known sportsmen. We are attacking a bill that will soon get a public hearing in front of the legislature's Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. The bill we are attacking is mine, LD 668. George got me to sponsor this bill, and we are now checking to see if I should have my head examined for saying yes. It would establish a marketing program at the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. So why should that be their job, George?
Well, because these are their customers. And if nothing else, they should be concerned that they're losing customers.
Well, they're the state's customers. I mean,
well, yes, but you have to buy something from Fish and Wildlife before you can even get started.
Well, there is
hunting
that.
and fishing.
Okay.
So we like to think. 10 years ago, we had a national study which said a lot of the states are really getting good at this, at marketing, at understanding these are their customers, at practicing good customer relationships from top to bottom of an agency. We're way behind on all of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many other departments, though, actually have marketing positions and plans? I mean, you've got Health and Human Services, which has its own spin department now.
Yes.
But they're really...
And they get all the money.
Yeah, I know. But there really aren't a lot of departments that have the mission of marketing what they do.
No.
This would create that in a department that really we think of as just being game wardens and protecting the environment and species.
Well, when you think of it this way, the department does a lot of things that benefit the public and the public values. It isn't just all hunting seasons, this and that. They're really on the leading edge of taking care of all our wild critters and the habitat programs. And people will appreciate that. We all enjoy it. I mean, think about access to private land, for example. I don't know, maybe you're getting excited about going out to pick some mushrooms pretty soon. That's probably done on private land without landowner permission. Landowner relations is critical. And we have a abysmally poor program, even though we've tried for 10 years to build it up, it's nowhere near what it needs to be. And so there's a lot of things in the mission of the Fish and Wildlife Department that benefit all of us. But they still rely on the sale of those hunting and fishing fees and licenses and permits. And so I think we have to recognize that that's a limiting factor. And given that we cannot compete at the legislature with human needs and education, we're going to have to do this ourselves. We're going to have to figure out how to do a better job at this.
Why wouldn't the better place to do this is the Department of Conservation, or back when we had a Department of Conservation?
Yeah. Well, we had a landowner relations program there for a couple of years, and it did okay, but then it came back to Fish and Wildlife, and we tried to build it into a much bigger thing, and I have a bill to do that this year, to create a much more effective landowner relations program at Fish and Wildlife with a partnership of all the groups that represent outdoor recreationists. So that's just another big need.
Yeah. When I look at the bill, there's something else unique about it, and that is that this actually puts the marketing program itself in statute.
Yes.
I mean, often you may have a department or an office or something that is just created to fulfill a mission,
yes,
and may be done by the executive branch, or they may reorganize to complete a mission. This would put it in law. That's pretty extreme, actually.
Well, it is, but it designates a person in the Information Education Division that's a marketing specialist, like Bill Pierce was, and it gives him a budget, and it also gives him a little bit of a group of people trying to bring the industry together to work on this together. Guides and sporting camps, and they don't work well together currently, and I think if we could focus everything on this one agency where we have so much in common and give them some money and a real good professional person, maybe they can all come together and really create a good program.
Well, you say give them the money, but in reality we're not putting any money in this particular bill. Where's the money coming from?
Well, I'd start out with a $3 million surplus. They've got money.
Yeah.
They've got money to put into this. And in my mind, it's beyond unacceptable that they haven't done it, that they abolished this and have not been doing it.
When I have to get up and defend this bill and they ask me where's the money coming from, I'll say you've already got it?
Yes.
Oh, boy, they're going to crucify me.
Yeah. Well, no, seriously, that's what we're all going over appropriations now, with ideas for what I've given them 15 programs and missions that is not getting accomplished.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. Marketing's on the list. But there's a lot more. It's not getting done at that department.
Well, this marketing specialist, who, by the way, could be me, because I could do this job.
Yeah. Right. You haven't got enough jobs yet, Bob?
I'd be so good at this.
Oh, yeah.
But they're required by this potential new law to do a lot of stuff.
Yes.
This one guy,
yes,
or gal,
yes,
is really required to do a whole lot. Aren't they going to need a lot more staff support than just this one person? What kind of realignment are we talking about?
Well, what I would see happening, and I thought we really needed to be specific so that the committee members and legislature know what we hope to achieve. But I think in the I&E division, there's a number of people that would be helping. There's already a person that's supposed to be responsible for public education and press. There's actually a communications guy just in the Wildlife and Fisheries division. I would bring all those people together, and this would be part of their jobs. So we'd had the leader, the marketing specialist, but he would be getting help all over the department and even out in the regions. I mean, honestly, everybody has to understand that these are their customers they're working with. Now, I do have one other revenue idea.
Oh, do you?
Which is really driving people bananas. Right now, 60% of all the money the Fish and Wildlife Department raises on its own goes to law enforcement. 60%. And half of that work is police work.
So you're on that again, are you?
I am, because that's shortchanging all of the rest of the mission of the department. The fisheries, the wildlife, the habitat, the conservation lands. And that, in my world, would change to get a better balance between law enforcement and all the rest of their mission. And we've always thought, well, if we ever got the public tax money, that would make up the difference. But we're not getting it. I don't think we're ever going to get it. We're going to have to deal with it ourselves. And in my mind, that means the wardens do less police work. We need less wardens, consequently. That money gets shifted over to this other work.
Yeah, when we've had this discussion in the past, you've pointed out that the warden service really has taken on a lot more missions than it once had.
Tremendous.
And that is why it's eating up the budget. And it's snowmobile safety and search and rescue.
Well, watch Northwoods Law.
Yeah.
2/3 of their work is police work.
Yeah.
They're out there looking for marijuana patches and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Looking for criminals and, that held up a store and,
maybe we can take some burden off them if we just arm the forest rangers.
That's what we need. More police in the woods, Bob.
Boy, this show's going downhill fast. Well, this marketing specialist obviously is going to do a whole lot of things. The program has to be responsive, according to the statute now. This is what the law would say.
Yes.
The new program has to be responsive to the needs of outdoor recreationalists. That's really broad. You're talking what? Whitewater rafters, bird watchers, speedlunkers?
Well, after all, my sponsor is the state's top birding guide, so we got to cover that. But I want to make it comprehensive.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because that helps sporting camps, guides, because they have to diversify. They're not going to get by, most of them, with just serving hunters and anglers. And a lot of them that are thriving know this. So why shouldn't this marketing person understand all the outdoor activities?
Yeah.
Matt Polstein up in Millinocket is right now, the rafting business has gone downhill. He's opening up biking, a long biking trail. So he keeps ahead of the curve better than anybody I know. But this marketing person would help all of the industry recognize why are people coming here, for what other outdoor opportunities are there, and market those as well.
Well, that just seems like an awfully big new job for the
It
department, because you are now talking things that are well beyond the traditional realm of hunting, fishing, wildlife management. I mean, geocaching.
Well, but even then, go back to something traditional like moose. Moose watching is huge. I just talked to Mike Booton, who's a guide and an outfitter in Greenville, and moose watching is very important to his business now, which used to be just hunting and fishing. And so he's upset because they're giving out cow permits and going to start to shoot some cows in his district, and he doesn't think there's enough moose to do that. I happen to agree with him. But all of this, yes, it's a different day and age for Maine's Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, but they do need to serve the needs of all outdoor recreationists, Bob. They really do.
My guest is George Smith. The bill we are talking about is LD 668, an act to market Maine's hunting and fishing opportunities. It would establish a marketing program at the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife and create a marketing specialist position. Soon, the Maine legislature will attack this bill. We're just beating them to the punch, attacking it before they do. Up next on Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, does this just broaden the mission of the department too far? Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8 on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. On today's show, we're attacking a bill offered by longtime advocate for Maine sportsman George Smith and sponsored by me. I'm in the Maine House of Representatives serving Alton, Argyle, Corinth, Hudson, and Milford, and George asked me to bring this bill to the legislature. We're beating it up right now before the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee beats it up later. I mean, this really broadens the mission of the department, George.
But if you look at the mission, it's already broad.
Yeah.
It's a very general, broad mission of protecting habitat and the critters. And all I'm saying is those critters are being used for a lot of different things now, including people who want to come and see a moose, not necessarily shoot one and eat one, like I do.
It does make great chili.
Oh, awesome.
Program must be responsive. This is in the bill. Program must be responsive to license and permit price concerns.
Yes. Here's where you could get creative, where a lot of other states are ahead of us. I just got an email message from the state of Pennsylvania that for the next 3 months they've cut the price of their fishing license for the year, trying to get the money in early. Brilliant strategy. Some of them market non-resident permits in a much more effective way. And I had one idea that if you went hunting or fishing with a Maine guide, you wouldn't have to buy the license. What a boost that would be for them. Some of them actually absorb that in their prices, like Don Kleiner does, the guide's executive director. But some of them can't afford to do that. So that part of the proposal would allow them some flexibility in the way they market and price licenses and permits.
Yeah, I will give Don Kleiner credit. He will charge up the yin-yang.
Yes.
I mean, he's not afraid to
Right.
get top dollar for what he offers.
And he gets it.
He does. Well, the program must be responsive to license and permit price concerns. Why isn't somebody else also concerned about that? I mean, why is this just a pricing question within the department?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's something we've ignored for a long time, and we're just about to get a study that the Tourism Commission did for us on why people have stopped coming here to hunt. We should have been doing this routinely. When you lose a customers, you should go out and find out why aren't they coming anymore. We haven't been doing that.
Oh, you know that we've been stretched with resources in the department for a very long time because we don't fund it through the general fund.
Right. But honestly, it doesn't take much money to contact somebody that you've lost as a customer and ask them to do a little survey. It shouldn't. It should be a routine thing.
certainly if we have people who are in the database from having licenses,
Right.
And they didn't renew or get a new license
Right.
this year, you should be able to.
I'll
pull
give you an
that out.
example. My boy, who grew up a Maine sportsman and loves to fish, lives in Massachusetts. So he has a very intense job. So he had just 3 days at camp this year up in the North Woods. Wanted to go fishing. It was $45. It was a lot of money for him to fish for maybe a couple of evenings. And he paid it because he loves to fish. But I got to thinking, how come there's not a 3-day license for a non-resident?
That is so true.
There isn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Because somebody who's coming here for a week who may want to do a little incidental fishing
Yeah.
while spending time with the family, you don't charge them a whole lot of money just to
No.
go have a little fun.
It's like I'm trying to get rid of the turkey fee this year of $20. It's a barrier.
Yeah.
And only 2,900 people even shot turkeys last year. I mean, hardly anybody hunts them.
Yeah, and furthermore, it takes you a full day just to read the fishing regulations.
Oh, well, that's another one of my bills.
See, winding you up now, George.
I have a bill on
Yeah.
that would has set up a commission to study and reduce and clarify all the hunting and fishing laws. That's going really well at the legislature. I think we're going to get something remarkable done on that one.
I don't tell people this much because it sounds like bragging, but I have an MBA from the University of Maine.
Wow.
My master's in business administration. And
I got a master's in intramural basketball.
Did you?
From UMO.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, almost none of it stuck with me. But
Well, I still play basketball. So that works.
Yeah.
Worked for me.
But one thing I really remember so clearly is the 4 Ps, which was price, was actually product, price, promotion, and place.
Ooh.
And in order to have a good marketing strategy, you had to have a product.
Yeah.
Because without the product, the rest doesn't do you much good.
Yeah.
And then it's got to be priced right.
Right.
It's got to be in the place where people can buy it. And what was the last one? Oh, promotion. Promotion. The 4 Ps. We never have that kind of coordinated discussion.
No, that's a really good point. And maybe this marketing person could really pull all that together for hunting and fishing and outdoor activities, because it's a good strategy all the way across the board. We are suffering somewhat in product with the loss of the deer herd, for example. We're not pricing things competitively for sure, and we're not promoting it. So, I mean, we're no peas.
Yeah.
Basically.
Do we have to have a realistic discussion about what our product is now? Because you're right. Up
Yes.
north, deer are gone.
As you know, the Tourism Commission does detailed studies to find out why people are coming here, and we know they come here to eat lobsters and to see a moose and see a lighthouse and all of this, but we don't drill down to the specific opportunities like we have. Certainly, losing the deer herd was an absolute killer for the industry.
Yeah.
But we don't bring anybody here to turkey hunt. And talking to my friends around the country, Maine has the best turkey hunting of any place. But we don't advertise that. We don't market. That's a nice little niche that would bring people here.
Yeah. I mean, those are rats with wings. They're everywhere now.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you and I have talked a lot about birding, but I would give your Maine birding trail guide to the inns that Linda and I were writing travel columns about, and they had no idea that people came to Maine to bird. And one time we were sitting at an inn in Bath, and we went around the table, and there was a couple there in the winter to bird watch on Reed State Park, and the innkeeper was astonished. She had no idea they were there to bird watch.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the best places to go in winter.
Yeah.
So I don't blame them.
So we don't even understand the products that people are coming here now for.
The one thing I have seen an increase of hunting in the North Woods is bird hunting.
Yes.
I'm seeing grouse hunters all over the place when I'm out there now.
Yes, and that's about 50,000 people.
This person has to get all staff members to ensure their programs deliver marketing of high value.
Yeah, well, I took that right out of the recommendations from 10 years ago that a national company proceeded, that they all have to be involved in customer relations and understand what the high values are, who the customers are they need to reach, and what they need to do. And I would start with a warden service. I got 2 complaints this week of non-residents who were up here really just behaving themselves well, but were really abused by game wardens.
Really?
And one of them said they would never come back to Maine. And this is fairly routine for me to get these kind of complaints.
Wow. Was it ice fishing or something else, or do you know?
Well, the one goes back to actually was the moose hunt.
Oh, okay.
It was a complaint from last fall, and one was ice fishing. But even the fisheries biologists, I mean, we all could do better at this.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the worst is ourselves. Residents really resent non-residents who come here to hunt and fish.
Oh,
and we need to get over that.
That's right.
Yeah.
We love tourism. It's the tourists we don't like.
Well, think of this. We give them 10% of the moose permits. What if we gave them 20%? They all spend a lot of money moose hunting. 97% of the non-residents got their moose last year, and that's because a lot of them hired guides.
Yeah.
And so we could be a lot more clever about capturing the money of these people when they do come here.
But, as you say, we're a little bit resentful when they get the special
A lot
treatment.
resentful. We make, and it's part of our jokes, and we make jokes about tourists. But when it comes do you remember the year when the Tourism Commission actually advertised trying to get us to be nicer to tourists?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Wouldn't it just be a lot better for our economy if those people from away mailed us the money and never showed up?
Oh, well, that was my plan, to stop them in Kittery. And how much do you plan to spend? Just leave it right here at home.
Shake them down and then turn them around.
Yeah.
It seems we don't always like tourists, but we have a whole Office of Tourism which has a $9 million budget to get tourists to come here. So whatever this bill does, it's going to have to be in partnership with the Maine Office of Tourism. My guest is George Smith. We actually visited with the Maine Office of Tourism before LD 668 was ever drafted. And this bill makes them nervous too. Stand by. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket with Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. George Smith writes and blogs about travel and tourism, and for many years, he was the chief lobbyist on behalf of traditional sportsmen in the state. He's still talking legislators, including me, into submitting bills for him, and we're clobbering one of those bills right now, LD 668, which will get a public hearing pretty soon. A bill like this makes people nervous, and some of those people run Maine's tourism programs. You know that this bill has deeply worried the Maine Office of Tourism because we have met with them.
We've met with them.
And the Maine Tourism Association was there because they're worried.
And the innkeepers and the restaurants were there.
Yeah, they're all worried. Anytime you make a department do something that goes to mess around in somebody else's stuff, everybody gets worried.
Yes.
And so...
Well, and I will say this for them. The dollars they get are terribly insufficient as well.
Yes.
Now, they do a really good job. They're well organized. They work together fairly well. So they're way ahead of us at hunt and fish and bird watch and that kind of thing. But still, we have something to learn from them. And I think once we reassured them, we're not looking for their money. Mm-hmm. We're going to take our own money and do this.
Yeah.
That was a big help. And I'm really hoping they'll come and support your bill and give us a boost.
Well, I think the second thing is they don't really want to see a lot of their time cannibalized either. If we force them to spend more time paying attention to these issues when they don't think that's where the real benefit to the economy is, then we're going to have a perennial conflict.
Well, and that's why we've created the job over in Fish and Wildlife. That'll be the person's job. Now, that person will work hopefully very closely with the Tourism Commission.
Well, certainly when we had the conversation with the Maine Office of Tourism, we discussed the fact that sometimes MOT didn't even know who to call at the department because that job was constantly changing and the duties were always being shuffled.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I had the same problem. I mean, this radio show, I used to coordinate with Doug Rafferty.
Yes.
When he was at the department. When he left, I wasn't sure who to call.
Yeah.
And I do publicity like this.
Yes. Yes. I keep telling them, more people read my outdoor news blog on the Bango website than reads their newsletter.
Yeah.
And now that's shocking. Yeah. That's wrong. But it's true. Come on.
Yep. So obviously some coordination really ought to happen. How we direct that to happen is going to have to be a gentle process because it's going to be cooperative.
Yes.
We've got to get the pieces to work together and not force one to...
Well, I really am determined, and I really want to get this done while Carol Ann Willett is still on the job because she is in Jackman. She had a restaurant there. She knows Western and Northern Maine. I think her heart is in the right place. I think she is in position to help us a lot. She's the head of the Tourism Commission, as you know. So if we could start working a little more closely with her, I think she's very willing.
I completely agree with you because she gets it. Phil Savignano, who is like number 2 over there, he gets it.
Yes.
He's an enthusiast for the outdoors and gets in. I mean, he was with the LL Beam programs for a long time.
That's right. So I think they would be a big help in getting the Fish and Wildlife Department up and running with this job and this task.
Yeah, so long as we don't distract them from all the other important stuff.
Right. Now, they're already paying occasionally for Fish and Wildlife Department staff to go to shows out of state. If they go, it's because the Tourism Commission paid their way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of chances to expand on that.
But when you look at even the department they're in, Economic and Community Development, it's like the smallest department we have with the biggest section of our economy.
That's right.
We don't put enough resources into even the Maine Office of Tourism. What is it, 3-4 people at most?
I just saw a report that I'm going to bring to the hearing that I don't have the numbers at the top of my head, Bob, but in Portland, all other industries except tourism and travel lost jobs in this time period, which I think was a 4-year time period. But tourism and travel was way up. Inns and restaurant business way up. Jobs way up. That's probably the case all around the state. But we like to think of Portland as our economic driver. But they lost jobs in all these other industries over this period of time.
I think probably the feeling you'll always get at Maine Office of Tourism is we're willing to help, but don't take our money, don't take our attention.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, here, as much as we could, we have created a way for them to help us without spending a lot of time or their own money.
Yeah.
And I believe they'll do it. I really have high hopes for this program. The big hurdle will be getting the department on board with it. They're not going to support this.
No, I'm sure they're not.
You know?
Yep. This program, also in statute now, must do annual surveys of what? Your favorite pizza topping? I mean,
well,
we're going to tell them to do surveys. We're not telling them what to do for
here's
surveys.
Another irritating thing. I started doing this on my own when I was at SAM. I bought their email list, and I was going to email surveys and find out what their customers wanted.
That went well.
They came to the legislature the next year and made it illegal for anybody to purchase their email list. So, but they have a big email list.
Yeah.
It is not expensive to keep in touch with your people. And I'm determined to make that happen, that they engage their customers more. Now, this commission that's going to review fishing and hunting laws and rules and simplify those, part of that bill would require them to do annual surveys of their customers to get ideas for what's confusing to you. You know, what are you having trouble with? And this day and age, it's just crazy not to engage your customers. You know, any successful tourism business keeps in touch. They got newsletters, blogs, everything coming your way, you know?
Yep.
Repeat business is what it's all about.
Well, through my long career in radio, I did an awful lot of research because you're right. You have to find out what your customers want and give it to them. It's complicated, expensive stuff. This is going to be a difficult lift for the department, I think, because A, they don't do it and they don't have any practice at it, and B, there's more expense involved to do a good survey. You can do a crappy survey, easy.
Yeah.
You can dial up people if you happen to have their numbers because they bought a fishing license once.
Right.
But beyond that, to do a scientific survey that you can make judgments off of is going to be expensive.
Okay, so maybe it needs to be really focused on the maximum value. But I really think even just a general email survey once in a while, just to give people a chance to give their opinions.
Yeah. Now, I can't believe this isn't my bill. This bill, law, if it passes into law, would put this person in charge of training and education for persons in the outdoor recreation industry, including guides, persons who operate sporting camps.
Yes.
I mean, there's mission creep and then there's mission leap.
Well, as you know, the University of Maine, there's a variety of places now educating people in the hospitality business and tourism business.
Yeah.
And all I want out of this position is to encourage the people that are guides and sporting camps to get more involved in that. It's sort of like the Maine Woods Initiative. We're trying to do it there, a lot of different places. But I think it is an important part of this job is to make sure that the people you're helping, the guides and all of this, are doing the very best job they can in serving their customers. And so they're not going to be responsible for that, but they would make sure that everybody knew where these courses are, when they are, how to participate, what needs to be done. I guess see kind of a regular newsletter from this guy to everybody in the industry. These are all the opportunities that are available for your staff, for yourself, you know.
Sporting camp. I'll take sporting camps as an example because that's in the statute as something they're supposed to be looking at. I'm not exactly sure what somebody at I&W can do to move the needle for sporting camps. I don't know how that person is going to come up with something that helps train them, which is in the statute. He'll have some responsibility for seeing those people are trained. That's a strange mission for somebody from I&W.
That is. I mean, and hearing you talk about it, maybe we'll have to give that up. But it's an important part of a successful industry, and I wouldn't want to lose track of it. Now, as you know, I'm writing a book for Down East Books on Maine sporting camps, and it's breaking my heart that there are so few left. And of those, a lot of them are in trouble for various reasons. And I would like to think that we could all figure out how to help them. We got a few initiatives going, but nothing comprehensively. So I really hope that this person at the department can spend a little time on that.
Yeah, I thought your book was probably going to be something like 300 pages. It's probably down to a dozen.
Yeah, well, I've had to look at new things that offer the same traditional opportunities, like Hudson Trails.
Yes.
It's not a sporting camp, but those are the traditional outdoor activities that we always enjoyed. AMC, which bought some sporting camps and really fixed them up, is another example. So and then some of them are just lodges or just camps, but if they offer the traditional types of activities and good places, I'll probably end up with 70 or 75 places.
Yeah. George Smith is my guest. Writer, blogger, advocate for traditional sporting, and longtime pain in the patootie for many in the state government. We're attacking our own bill. probing for weaknesses before it goes to the legislature very soon. It's Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, and this is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. You may know George Smith is an advocate for traditional sporting in Maine, and he now writes and blogs on wildlife and tourism issues. LD 668 is a bill that he wrote and I sponsored that is going to a public hearing in the legislature soon. We're beating it up before anybody else does. Well, this is one that's going to spur a lot of interest and probably heartburn in the committee. Recommendations to create new hunting and fishing licenses that feature new opportunities to attract non-residents. We've already gone over that a little bit,
Yes.
but once again, some people are going to think, what makes those non-residents so special?
They spend a lot of money here.
Oh.
That is it in a nutshell. Now, a lot of them are Mainers who had to leave for jobs, like my son. Mm-hmm. And I like to see those people favored to come back to hunt and fish with me, my family members. But more than that, we are competing with every state in this nation and with Quebec provinces for hunters and anglers, and we are not doing a good job. Even where we have good experiences, they're doing a better job of marketing theirs. And, one guy isn't going to turn this around, but at least we'll have somebody thinking about it, working on it, looking at what the other states are doing, bringing those ideas home. I think that's going to be an important part of it.
Of course, every time we talk about forcing the department to do stuff, it's no wonder they hate this bill.
Well, yes. Yes. No, just generally, state agency people don't like to hear from George and Bob about what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, furthermore, it doesn't matter what the department is. So far, if this legislature forces a department to do something, the governor vetoes it.
Yes.
It's like anytime I say to I-F&W, you must do this bill's already dead.
Well, I'm counting on the governor liking you and not finding out this is my bill.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of it.
This turn's going to sit in that corner and smoke.
Yeah.
This is a funny word in statute. This is in the bill. This would require aggressive promotion of opportunities to hunt and fish. I think this may be the first time in state history the word aggressive. I mean, how do you even legally define that in a statute?
I just loved it. I just loved what the opportunity to talk about what that might mean.
I'm just surprised the revisor's office that drafts the bill actually put that word in.
I didn't think that word would be in the law.
Aggressive?
Yeah. Well, we know what aggressive is. It's aggressive.
Sure. Yeah. But who puts aggressive into a statute? If this survives, I'm going to laugh. But it would be aggressive promotion of opportunities to hunt and fish. What would be different than what we're doing right now in order to demonstrate being aggressive?
Well, first of all, we're not doing anything right
doing
now.
it.
But I would be going after customers, specific customers. I would be looking at what we have to offer. Just like you see the new research that the Tourism Commission did, the 3 different kinds of tourists. And the ones that spend the most and this and that, and they nail down what they're looking for and what their expectations are, and they put it all up in a survey. It was fascinating. In fact, I'm going to be writing about it this week. But we don't do anything like that for our customers. We don't know who they are, what drives them to Maine. And when I think aggressive, I think it's starting in the Northeast where most of our customers are. And it isn't just about the customers, Bob. It's about the opportunities. Now, I hate to take up the rest of the show on Sunday hunting, but we are not competitive because New Hampshire, Vermont, New York offer Sunday hunting. Yeah. People now that have short time periods and want to hunt all week, just talked to a friend who has a camp in Rangeley, but he's only 10 miles from New Hampshire. He's going to do all his hunting this year in New Hampshire because he only has weekends. We are losing a huge chunk of the market because we don't offer Sunday hunting opportunities.
Well, fortunately, we don't have the deer anymore.
Well, no, but I mean, it's grouse. There's all kinds of other things you could hunt. Turkeys on Sunday. Who cares about that? I mean, we can't get beyond the landowners, the Farm Bureau, and SWOM, and the Forest Products Council to ever offer. I don't think we'll ever have Sunday hunting, but honestly, it puts us at a great disadvantage.
Yeah, for shotgun hunting. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure why there should be objection. It's just the way we Mainers are.
I put in a bill once to allow it only on your own land. I couldn't even get that. So I gave up.
That's just ingrained in our DNA.
But in defining aggressive, I really think we look at what other states are offering and figure out how we can match some of that.
But we won't.
Well, no, but we'll keep on this.
Yep.
Well, take birding.
Yep.
We could look at...
I'm in favor of Sunday birding.
As you know, Linda and I have been to Texas along the Rio Grande. $100 million industry in a very poor area. Birding centers, walkways, maps, all kinds of information for the birding tourists. Yeah. Come to Maine. Buy Bob's book. That's about all we have to offer. Or your pamphlet that they put out.
Yep, there's a whole section of the southern Texas border there that
it's
the illegals
amazing.
can't cross because there are too many birders there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But those world birding centers that they have are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. I'll show you photos.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
All right. This bill says that info must be publicized without limitation. There's another good word in there.
Love that.
Without limitation in maps and brochures on politically accessible websites and social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've started blogs. It's just pathetically bad. There's one person who's trying to blog, but it's nothing that would interest their customers.
Yeah.
They have a lot of information, Bob, but they don't know how to convert that into public access.
Well, I think you put your finger on it when you say that they just don't have the expertise for it, and that's the person that needs to be hired.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of wonderful people at IFW.
Yes, we do.
Great scientists.
A lot of friends of mine.
Great managers.
And they have great information, great research, but none of it gets conveyed to their customers.
And often that's because you need a budget to do it, and if this bill passes, which this
Well, when I was writing a regional column for the Maine Sportsman, I used to go up to Sydney to the regional office, and there would be boxes of wonderful research studies they'd done that never got out of the box. And I would wade through them and pick out something to write about. That's still the case today. We don't see any of their research.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, speaking of writers, this bill would require them to create a database of outdoor writers and reporters.
Now, isn't that a great idea?
You and I going to be on it?
Can you believe they haven't done this?
I
Really?
would have thought they had.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought somebody there must have a Rolodex, or what passes for an electronic Rolodex these days.
We can get on an email list for notices of meetings.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. They'll put out occasionally a bulletin that it's time to get your moose permit or something, but no real news that anybody could write about.
So what are we after? Free media? That is, we get a Rolodex, we send them ideas and information and hope they write something about it?
Well, they just sent it to you and me. They'd be ahead. But
That's right.
There's a lot of people, at the Press Herald, at the Bangor paper, they all have to work really hard to dig out stories.
There are a lot of writers out there who work for almost nothing, and you and I are good examples.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But we would love to have more information from the department. I have to work really hard to dig out information. Even my requests sometimes take a long time to find out anything.
This bill directs IFW to do something and spend money. As I say, historically the governor vetoes that.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can soft pedal this so it gets around the veto pen?
Well,
If the department opposes this, it's probably going to lie there and die.
I don't think so. I think we've got some real possibilities, some momentum with this bill. Now, we might not get this long laundry list of things, but if we could just create that position and give the person even $150,000, we'd be off and running. So maybe you're talking a $250,000 budget, let's say. They can do that right now if they wanted to.
Yeah. There's a bunch of education and marketing bills out there, and besides the personal qualities of the sponsor, why is this bill better?
Well, the guides bill simply went over and tried to rip some money away from the tourism existing budget, and that got clobbered.
That ain't happening.
No. And so some of the other ideas are kind of imaginative and different things, but nobody is focused on putting that marketing back just where it was, with a person and a budget. And it was fairly effective when Bill Pierce was there. And that's the way we're going to have to start. I can't see any other way we're going to be able to accomplish any of this if we don't do it ourselves in the department. And sure, they'll oppose it, but I go back. Last year they opposed my comprehensive turkey bill that Senator Tom Saviello sponsored, and they even had a task force whipped up to oppose my bill. And on the last day of the work session, they came in and they changed their mind, and they supported almost all of it, and we got it.
Yeah.
So you keep the pressure on. They know, privately, people have told me, they know we need to do this.
Well, if this bill passes, it's likely to be amended or merged into another bill. It might be merged into Mike Shaw's bill, which puts a $1 extra charge on all licenses. But anyway, some result will come out. What would victory look like?
Nothing. I won't be happy unless we get the position established with a budget, just like we had 10 years ago. That, to me, is I can't think of anything short of that would accomplish much of anything. We really need a focus in our department with a budget and with some of these tasks, and go out there and get a good marketing person.
Well, we're about out of time, but let's handicap the odds at the chances of this passing.
Remote.
Yeah. I was giving it maybe 5%.
But a lot of it's up to the industry. They need to come down and help us. They need to understand that this is a real chance, that this is a great bill. And I've been spreading the word and writing about it. I think we'll have some people there. And then, once you start with the Fish and Wildlife Committee, that's a little bit easier than appropriations, and we'll just keep working on it. It's compelling. Most everybody knows we need to do this.
Well, I think that's the key to this bill. whatever way it morphs out of committee, if it comes out of committee with an ought-to-pass recommendation of some kind, it's because everybody knows that we need to do this, and I don't know what form it'll take. If we can get the department to have a conversation on this, an honest one that isn't curtailed by concerns from the second floor of the State House.
Well, I will have some questions salted into the committee, and, good luck to them explaining what they're doing for marketing right now.
Yeah.
Because they can't. And then once we understand they're not, and everybody knows we need to do it, I think the only legitimate argument is it a government function, and it always has been. It's a partnership, just like Tourism Commission partners with inns and restaurants. It's time to partner with those who offer outdoor opportunities.
Well, then you'd like somebody who's going to come out of this looking like a genius, and I'm betting it's not me.
Well, we could call this the Duchesne marketing position. Hey, in the bill, could we designate that you get hired to do it?
I mean, we're putting aggressive in the statute. Why not put my name on it?
We should be so lucky. But I hope if we price it right that we can actually get somebody well qualified.
Yeah. Well, certainly we got to do some marketing.
Yes.
LD 668, my bill that would require the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to establish a marketing program. It'll go to public hearing very soon. We'll see if the IF&W committee of the legislature clobbers this bill any worse than we just did. George Smith is the brains behind it, and I thank George for joining me again on Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Dice Arts, EBS, Doors Equipment, and Napa Auto Parts. This is Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.